Much like with being in love, a casting call can make us do some very stupid things. Scammers are aware that the allure of fame and fortune is just too much for many people, and many times our ability to rationalize goes out the window, and we leave ourselves open to being taken advantage of. Because of this, we're going to be going over some common red flags or things to look out for when reviewing casting calls for film, TV, and modeling. I'm Frank with Electric City Entertainment, and let's get started. Pay that doesn't make sense for the job. There's an old adage that if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, and that goes double for casting calls. If you see a casting call where the rate is just absolutely amazing or far greater than you would expect for a normal job, that's a huge red flag and you should probably be pretty suspicious about that casting. The way to fight this is to know what is generally appropriate for whatever field you're working in whatever area you're in. For example, in Atlanta, it's pretty normal for an unskilled background artist to get about $140 per 12 hours. You'll see this fluctuate a lot depending on the production, how many people are needed, and how skilled it is, but most of them are usually within that range or close to it. If you see 2, 3, 4, even 10 times that rate, you should be watching out and seeing what else is going on here, and maybe even consider not applying to it, or if you do apply, you watch out because that might be a lead-in to a scam. On the other side, if the rate is low or has no pay or deferred payment, it's not necessarily a scam, but these are more likely to be independent student films or micro-budget films, where they really can't afford to pay somebody. This is not necessarily a scam, but watch out because many of these are still somewhat predatory or can take advantage of actors. It's not always the case. Just do your research, see who you're working with, and be careful because many times people do get taken advantage of even when it is a legitimate production. One job, but many locations. So, generally the way most open castings work is that they are looking to hire people that are local to the production, usually within an hour, 2 hours, really not much further out from that. So if you see a casting call, but it's being posted in lots of different locations, that's a bit concerning. But what's more concerning if it's posted to multiple locations and stating that it's also being produced in those locations. And that's something that I've seen actually a few times where usually the scammer will just carbon copy their same posting and post it to multiple locations, and then with each posting they just change the location that the post is in. So for example, if they're doing a Southeast casting call, they'll say it's taking place in Atlanta. If they're posting it in New York, they'll say it's taking place in New York. London, Toronto, Toronto, but it will usually be the exact same post, the exact same dates, and the exact same emails for the job, and that's just not how production works. Even ones that are traveling to different locations, they will hire in those locations, they will have different dates that they're hiring in, and they're not going to be hiring the same person for each of those. A new person is going to be hired in each location. So there's tons of red flags with that. That is an instant way to say, this is not a legitimate casting call. Message me for details. So there's certain information that is fairly standard to include in a casting call. Those are the dates of the production, the pay rate, whether it's union and non-union, details about what they're looking for the casting, and generally some ideas of what the casting entails. Many times they should be showing who the casting company is. They don't always tell the production company, sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on how big and secretive the production is. Many times they'll use a code name for the production instead of the actual title of whatever is being done. But if you don't see those in a casting call, you should be a little concerned. But what should be really concerning is if a person refuses to put standard information in. And many times this will come with a, hey, message me for details, or send me an email, or send me a DM, and then we'll discuss the specifics over that. Generally, the reason they're doing that is because they don't want to post those things publicly, because someone is going to call them out or someone is going to remove the post because it will be an obvious fraud or scam to anyone who has more common sense or who has experienced it previously. So if you start seeing that, you should be very concerned, or you should pressure them to post it publicly. If you're a moderator or if you can message the moderators, let them know. Most will actually have rules about needing to post those details or they'll be removed or flagged, and that is for good reason. So if they're not putting out the details or they're urging you to send them a message, watch out. I wouldn't email that person. I wouldn't direct message that person. Generally, that's a lead into a scam, or they're just fishing for information, and sometimes they'll just use it to get your email address or more details about you. So absolutely watch out if they refuse to put details in a post, or if they're urging you to send them private messages. Getting hired too easily. Most castings, they go through a vetting process to determine if a candidate is appropriate for a job. Sometimes for non-featured background, it's as simple as just looking at a couple of photos and saying, okay, are those good or not? But for anything that's more complicated, like a speaking role, they will generally want a more complicated vetting process where they're going over more of your information, usually auditions or multiple auditions, going over acting reels, something that's more involved. If you apply for a job and it's just far too easy to be cast, so one big example is if you get cast for a speaking role and they've never seen you speak, you should be very concerned because something is wrong there. Either it is fraud or a scam, or it's not necessarily, but that means that their quality of production is so low that they're not even doing a vetting process before hiring someone. So even if it is a legitimate production, it's probably going to end up being a very bad production. I have had this happen to me where it was a legitimate production and all I sent in was an email, I think a resume, and a couple of photos, and I was cast for a speaking role. I very quickly pulled out of it because after going to the first rehearsal, I found that the quality of the production was going to be very, very bad, to the point of what I considered an embarrassing role if I were to actually accept it, so I immediately pulled out. So not saying that it's necessarily a scam, but it should worry you if they're not going through some sort of vetting process before actually casting you, especially if it's far too easy for the role that they're proposing. Failing a simple Google search. So if you're not sure about a casting call, you can look up certain details about it, and that should give you more information on if it is legitimate or not. So things you want to look up: production company or casting company, the name of the production if they give it, and any details about a brand or a modeling agency if it's for a commercial or if it's for a photo shoot. Usually just a simple Google search will be enough. You can find, do they have a website? Has that website been around for a long time? Do they have a portfolio? Is that portfolio legitimate, or is it actually just stock images that are stolen? Some scammers will go as far as making fake websites to make their modeling company or whichever look like it's legitimate. Sometimes they'll even make a fake brand, and once you go through it, you need to determine, does this actually look like this has a real history, or is this something that is just a front that doesn't really exist? Another thing you can do is most states, depending on where they're incorporated, will have a company lookup. So if you have the name of the company, for example, South Carolina has a website you can go to, you can put in their name and see, are they registered, are they a legitimate company or not? And if you can't find them registered in any state, then you should be concerned. Odds are they're not actually a real or legitimate company. Errors in communication. When reading a casting call and communicating with anyone who's doing a casting, you should watch out for errors in communication, which usually include grammatical errors, typos, misspellings, or just saying things in ways that would be strange for someone who is a native speaker to say. This is usually because most scammers are not native speakers of whatever language they're trying to scam in, and they also want to try to weed out people who are smart enough to realize that that is a scam because of the misspellings and the grammatical errors. So they don't want to waste their time with trying to scam smart people who probably will not fall for it. They want to just find the people who are kind of on, the less intelligent side, and then they'll be much easier to take advantage of because they're going to overlook those grammatical errors and those typos. Some other things that I've seen in terms of discrepancies in communication: many times the scammer or fraudster is sending out so many different postings that they can't even remember what posting was for what. So I've had some where it seemed like it was for a thriller video, but then they start talking about modeling shots and photographs, so they can't even remember what their original post was because they've done so many other postings. So if something like that happens where you get really confused on what's going on, or there's a mismatch, you should watch out. That person is likely running a scam that they can't even keep straight. pressure to act immediately. Many scammers are going to try to limit the amount of time you have to think about whether you're going to give information or whether you're going to commit to something. The reason they do this is because if you are given more time, there's much more of a chance that you might come to a realization that you're being scammed. They want to catch you off guard, they don't want you thinking. So many times they'll put lots and lots of pressure on immediately making a decision and quickly sending information or sending money or sending approval or your banking information or your address, because they want to put you into an uncomfortable and non-thinking position where you're going to slip up or make a mistake, where you feel badly because you could have given up some lifetime opportunity because you just hesitated too long. In reality, some casting calls for background are done somewhat quickly, like sometimes a day or so, but they'll still generally give you a little bit of time to check your schedule. They'll usually give you an email and maybe text you once to say, hey, can you please respond quickly? But they're not going to put too much pressure on you because they know they've got a list of other people that they can cast. So they'll just basically go, well, if it's not for you, I'm going to move to someone else. Versus if someone keeps pushing that you immediately respond, they keep sending text after text or email after email. And especially if the production is not happening really soon in the future, if it's a 2-week out production and they put that much pressure on you, you should be worried. You should think that more likely they're trying to make you make a bad decision rather than it being actually a legitimate production. So if they're putting abnormal amounts of pressure on you, probably think twice. Put extra thought into it, because that's the thing they don't want you to be doing. They don't want you thinking. Payments made in advance. This is by far the most important thing I'm going to talk about in this entire video, and that is getting any form of payment in advance. The industry does not work this way at all. The reason being, they don't know you. If they were going to send you something of value, nothing stops you from taking that thing and then never showing up for work. So there is not a single industry that works this way. What the scam is they're going to make you think you're getting something of value, like a check or a money deposit, but that thing's not real. It never was. They want you to think that it's real so that they can use that against you. And usually what they'll say is the payment was an overpayment or they need a refund, and then you're going to send them something of real value, usually actual money or a gift card or a cryptocurrency or an actual check. And between the time of you getting that fake money and you realizing it's fake money, they're hoping to swindle you out of real money. So if they're ever asking you to send you a payment, your information so they can send you a check, 100% that is fraud. No one's going to prepay you for anything. On the other side, if they ever ask you to pay them for anything, also another red flag, because any legitimate production is not going to ask you to pay for things. You shouldn't pay to apply. You shouldn't have to pay for extra wardrobe or things like that. Either you should have the wardrobe or they're going to provide it when you get there. So if they ask you to pay them for any reason, do not do it. If they try to pay you in advance, do not accept it. Do not give them your bank information. Do not give them your address. They're going to use that against you, and that is how almost all of these work. And all of these scams are probably going to end with this. So if you just keep this in mind, you'll catch almost every person who's trying to scam you. The only thing it's not going to catch are people who are just looking for information, people who are data mining, who are just trying to get your name, your address, your social security number. Those people aren't going to do this, but that's a kind of slightly different scam. The more common scam is going to be looking to try to get you to send them a gift card, money, a lot of times GameStop cards, something like that, because that's how they're going to profit off of it. So if there's any kind of back and forth payment before the job is actually done, that proves to you it's a scam. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm Frank Chopatini, again with Electric City Entertainment. If you have any comments, things you think I missed, or things you want to see in the future, let me know in the comments, and look forward to our next video. Hopefully we can keep churning out good, high-quality videos for you all to enjoy. Thank you so much. Have a great day. This video was sponsored by Servetti, software for services. Learn more about what Servetti can do for your business and sign up for a free trial at servetti.com.